All right, looks like we are live. I did not do any prep in terms of getting you guys prepared for this. I didn't give you like a 15-minute countdown or anything. I decided to just go right for it. It looks like we have a good stream here. And as you guys are coming on in, make sure to let me know that the audio is coming in. Let's see. Condenado, are you getting my audio okay? Can you give me a thumbs up as well? Hello, Jose. How do you say your name? Josui. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm trying to pronounce names. My wife is from Japan. Her name is Akiko Nakanishi. So you would think I could figure out how to say your name there. I had to practice that one. So, hey guys. Oh, you're all coming on in. Look at you guys. Great to have you all. Wow. Boom. We're not even a minute up here. We got 500, 600 people. Keep them coming. All right. Hey, I wanted to share with you some awesome news. There's some studies that have just come out. I've been compiling them over the last couple of months in secret, definitely wanting to share them with you. But I knew this isn't something we could do in just one of our quick, 10, 13-minute videos that we do twice a day, every day, right? Analyzing current events, aligning conservative trends, so we can all live in the present light of even better things to come. I think I dream that. I hear that in my sleep. But I wanted to get deeper with this particular topic because I think it's a huge one in terms of Generation Z and their political self-identification. And what you will find is their political self-identification, as it's turning out from these studies, is in a total contradiction to what is known as the cultural backlash thesis. And we're going to get into that a bit. Maybe some of you, I know whenever I get interviewed on talk radio, one of the most frequent questions I always get asked is, okay, we may make it past 2020 and maybe even, 2024, but hey, then you've got this Generation Z coming up. They're all a bunch of left-wing nuts, aren't they? Aren't we screwed, come 2030? Isn't the nation just going to be completely overwhelmed by a bunch of left-wing liberals because all the young kids are apparently all smoking wokeism and the like? And it's stunning to me how many conservatives don't actually know of these studies that have been coming out. They're not a secret. We've been seeing them now. I'm going to be able to talk to. Maybe it's because I'm so excited about these studies. I can't wait to share them with you. I think you're going to feel so good and so confident going into the future after getting these studies. But the cultural backlash thesis is something that's held by liberals, okay? It's CNN pushes it, MSNBC pushes it, New York Times push it. It's based on a recent book that was by that title, Cultural Backlash. It basically argues, yeah, okay, Trump won, probably win again in 2020, right? Red mirage, anybody, right? That red mirage is another word for landslide, but alas. So, okay, Trump won. Okay, you got your Brexit across the pond. All right, you got the rise of AfD in Germany. You got, the Freedom Party in Austria, and you got Vlad in Russia. You got Narendra Modi in India. You got your Bolsonaro in Brazil. I get it. You got your Orban in Hungary. You got your Andrzej Duda and Mateusz Morawiecki in Poland. I get it. Okay. All right. But this nationalist populist wave is futile. It's going to burn out. And it's going to burn out because it's primarily animated by a bunch of old white men who are dying off. And when they die off, they're going to be replaced by this young, idealistic, right, Gen Z wave of wokeness that will flood the world. So my fellow liberals, you will hear CNN say, my fellow leftists, I promise you, just wait this out, and we're going to see a new left-wing age, a new liberal age rise by virtue of Gen Z. Gen Z is our they are our saviors. That's known as the cultural backlash thesis. And I'm stunned at how many conservatives believe it. I'm stunned at it. And again, like I said, I do like 5 talk radio show interviews a week. And so, what was that, 20 a month? And that's probably the number one question that comes up is, but what about Gen Z? You say there's a new conservative age rising, but look at Gen Z. Aren't they a bunch of left-wing lunatics? Every poll that CNN shows that Gen Z is 60% left-wing on this, 55% left-wing on this, 70% left-wing on this. What do you do with that? And my answer to that is what you do with it is you look at the latest studies and you fill in the data, because what CNN is telling you is only half right. Yes, Gen Zers, the majority of whom identify as liberal. Yes, that's true. But there's something much bigger going on. And if you don't see what's going on, this bigger picture, then you're going to be able to pass this notion that this cultural backlash of nationalist populism it's just a flash in the pan. It will win maybe another election or two, and then that's it. Gen Z will take over, and they're overwhelmingly liberal, and you'll never see a Trump or nationalist or a Salvini or a Marine Le Pen ever again, or Nigel Farage or anything like that. So that's the cultural backlash thesis. And what I want to do today on our live feed together is I want to share with you why that cultural backlash thesis is fine as far as it goes, for the exception of one thing. It's wrong in every single solitary way it could be wrong. It is absolutely flat out wrong. Now, just so you guys know, and I put a link down below, that if you are interested in deep dives like this every week, we're doing that on my Turley Talks Insiders Club. So we have deep dive videos every week, just like this, that's exclusive to the Insider Club members. So you definitely want to avail yourself of that. So we do our 2 videos a day, 5 days a week. They're about 10 to 13 minutes. But then once a week on the weekends, I do these kind of deep dives. We get like 45-minute videos on a topic like this, where I give you all the enriched data, as it were, to encourage you in your conservative walk, in your conservative journey, as we're uncovering more and more that the world is indeed turning en masse to the right, if you've got the big picture lens to look at. And that's what I want to give you today. I think you're going to be very excited about Generation Zers. I'll give you definitions of what Generation Z is and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so make sure you click on there. We also have another deal for everybody. There should be a link down below from my book, President Trump and Our Post-Secular Future, that we're giving away free, absolutely free. It's my gift to you, and it's as an ebook download. So if you click down below, you can download your own free copy, and that'll give you an analysis of the nationalist, populist, and traditionalist trends that won in 2016 and are going to win again in 2020. Okay, so good stuff. All right. So let's speed up this cultural backlash thesis. And then, guys, if you want to, be the monster or be devoured, thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. I'm going to look down periodically. I've got my live streaming. So if you have questions, I've got it down below. I'm going to look down periodically and see who's asking what. Please feel free to ask your question a few times, because I'm probably going to miss it. But if you have any questions, you want to chat a little bit in this process, let's do that as well. But let's look at how Generation Z is actually, you ready for this? Write this down if you're taking notes, trying to talk to your friends about this stuff. Generation Z is actually the most conservative generation yet studied. All right, so put that aside, and let's fill that in for you. Let me give you some definitions. Hey, thanks, Nathan. Very sweet of you. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. All right, let me give you some definitions. So who's Generation Z? Generation Z are those born between 1997 and 2012, okay? And this is something that Pew, as I understand, Pew Research tends to define where the generations begin and end. I'm not quite sure. They tend to find something there that kind of bookends generations. You probably know it better than I do. But Generation Z is our youngest voting generation. So they are our current 18-year-olds, born between 1997 and 2012. So millennials, you've probably heard they're 1981 to 1996. That's when they were born. My generation, Generation Xers, we were born between 65 and 80. And then, of course, boomers prior to that, right after World War II. And as I understand it, that they get their terms from that Generation X designation. That's why we got Z. And so I guess we're going to have to start with A next time, or double Z. It's kind of like hurricanes or something. I'm not sure. But one of the arguments you're going to hear all the time from CNN and MSNBC, and I see it, I've read it myself, is that Generation Zers hate Trump, overwhelmingly hate Trump, and then they'll show you all these stats. They want bigger government. They love socialism. They're very attracted to Bernie. They're overwhelmingly supportive of BLM, multiculturalism, right? They fully embrace LGBT rights, all that, ad nauseum. You go down the litany. And then the idea is that demographics is destiny. This is our future. This is going to be the future majority of voters that are going to bring in this, woke wave throughout our nation, indeed throughout the whole of the West, because Europeans are talking this way as well, particularly British scholars. The problem with this notion that we are moving inexorably to this left-wing future via Generation Z is twofold. Okay, and scholars are recognizing this. Scholars are recognizing this cultural backlash thesis that conservatives are just a flash in the pan and that Generation Zers are going to guarantee a more left-wing future. That has two fundamental flaws. First, it is blatantly contradicted by the evidence that we have for Generation Zers. It is blatantly contradicted, which we'll get into. And then secondly, it assumes a static voter sentiment. That is that how I vote at 18 is going to be the same way I vote when I'm 40. Keep those two ages in mind, right, for that title. How I vote for 18 is the same way I'm going to vote when I'm 40. I was a lefty when I was 18. I was a lefty in the early years of college, right? So Matteo Salvini was a lefty. Right? Many right-wingers were lefties and then take the red pill, right? So the cultural backlash thesis has two fundamental flaws. One, it's contradicted by the data that we know right now of what Generation Z self-identifies as. And two, it assumes that however this young generation is voting now, it's going to vote that way 20 years from now. Both of those things are contradicted. All right, by the evidence. Again, remember, this is evidential. We are not wishful thinking. We're not doing anybody any good wishful thinking or being presumptuous. We might as well just build our bunk. I'd rather all of us build our bunkers or move right next door to the Amish or whatever and just wait this out rather than give anybody false hope. This is all rooted in evidential evaluation. So the simple fact is as all of these studies are coming in, Generation Zers identify as conservatives more than any other previously studied generation. That's what you have to get. So it's important for you to understand that when CNN says, well, 60% hate Trump and 58% love Bernie and blah, blah, that's all true. But there's another side, right? That's what Turley Talks is all about, that there is a clash between left-wing globalism and right-wing populism, right? Nationalist populism. And all the corporatist globalist media wants to focus on is the inevitability of this corporate globalism, this liberal globalist utopian future, when in point of fact, every time it makes advances, there is a massive backlash to push it back from the right. And so our analysis approaches the world from a dialectic, that there's this clash, there's back and forth between the secular left-wing globalism and then the nationalist populist backlash. And then we make a series of arguments for why nationalist populism has the leverage. It's going to outlast globalism, most particularly because when all is said and done, conservatives are having kids and left-wing liberals aren't. And now I believe we're starting to see the data on that. We're starting to see the fruit of that, the fruit of the fact that conservatives have kids and left-wing liberals basically don't. There's a 30% fertility differential, for example, between conservative religionists in the United States and secular liberals. And over time, a 50-50 population with a 30% fertility differential, just in one generation, 20 years, becomes a 60-40 population differential. And then in 2 generations, in 40 years, it becomes 75-25. Now, of course, the immediate question is, well, wait a minute, do all the kids of conservatives stay conservative? The data we have is that the more conservative the family, the more the kids retain their conservatism when they get older. As a matter of fact, the express data that we have is that liberals are more likely to become conservative than the other way around. It's very, very fascinating stuff. And I think we're beginning to actually see the fruit of this. To my knowledge, there's not been any studies done to show the connection between the extraordinary level of self-identified conservatism among Generation Zers and their conservative upbringing. I haven't seen that yet, but that's precisely what the Religious Shall Inherit the Earth thesis by Eric Kaufman of the University of London is arguing, is that as we approach his date is 2030. As we approach the date 2030, we're going to see that first 50-50 shift to like a 60-40, as it were, to make it simple. We're going to start seeing conservative religious sentiments become dominant in our political and social scenes in a way they have not been. Up to this point, it's just kind of going back and forth. Sometimes we advance, the left pushes back, and so forth. Around 2030, that's when you're going to start to see the results. You reap what you sow. I mean, there's no way around that, right? You're going to see the reaping of the sowing of many children being raised, in homeschooling and Christian schooling or just going to college, maintaining a very strong conservative identity, and they're going to start taking over. They're going to start becoming more and more the majority. And it seems like we're getting a taste of this. So let me give you some data. And again, I've recommended this on several videos, but there's a great book out. I should get a cut on it since I recommend it so much, by British scholars, Matthew Goodwin and Roger Eatwell. For those of you who don't know, I did get educated in Britain. I studied at Durham University. And so I am partial to British scholarship. I love the British doctoral and academic world, my Hogwarts, I guess. But British scholars Matthew Goodwin, Roger Eatwell, they've compiled data in their study. It's called National Populism. Excellent read. I would really recommend it. And they found that this data, particularly data published in a paper in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin, that finds that among current 18-year-olds, so these are high school seniors or college freshmen, among current 18-year-olds, 30% identify themselves as politically, socially, culturally conservative. Okay, you want to write that down, 30%. Now, CNN might laugh at you at that, but yeah, well, 58% say they're liberal. Okay, all right. But again, this channel is about trends. That's what we're always trying to do. We're always trying to look at current events in light of conservative trends. Where are things going? So what if we were to compare what 18-year-olds in previous generations said was their political self-identity? Well, we might find a little bit of a pattern, won't we? So let's go back to the baby boomers, born right after World War II. 17% of baby boomers self-identified as conservatives. I believe that was according to Gallup. Okay. Again, this is all compiled in Matthew Goodwin and Roger Eatwell's book on national populism. 17% of baby boomers self-identified as conservative. Okay, that's pretty good. 22% of Generation Xers, my generation, self-identified as conservatives when they were 18. Okay. Then 23% of millennials self-identified as conservative when they were 18. And now, Generation Zers, 30%. So we've gone from 18 to 22 to 23 to 30. What do you think the next generation is going to be? Right? Well, again, if you bring in Eric Kaufman's The Religious Shall Inherit the Earth thesis, that because religious conservatives in particular, but conservatives in general, have more children on average than secular liberals, and those children retain their conservatism in adulthood, do you think we might see 40% of 18-year-olds self-identifying as conservatives? Absolutely. That's a very real possibility. So here's what CNN is not telling you. When CNN tells you, thank you, Raphael, and forgive me if you guys have given me a gift and I missed it, please forgive me. You know I thank you so much for it. There are no words for that gratitude. I really appreciate that trust you've given to me. I can't thank you enough. So you get this line of assent for self-identification as conservatives among 18-year-olds that CNN is not telling you about. So when CNN tells you, thank you, Octavio, when CNN tells you that 55, 60, 70%, well, it won't be 70 so much, it'd be like 68% of Gen Zs are left-wing liberals, what they are intentionally keeping from you is that they're going down. Whereas it should have been, so in another generation, it should have been 80%, right? They're going down, whereas those who self-identify as conservatives are ascending. There is a clear trajectory, a trend towards the right among 18-year-olds generationally. We have seen it in 3 straight generations, from the boomers, starting with the boomers, right? So then we go to Xers, millennials, and Zs. 3 straight generations have moved to the right. So this is what CNN is not telling us. And again, we have to remember that is deliberate, right? The researcher Nathan Kofnas, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Cofnas, Kofnas. He's documented what we might call the politicalization of knowledge, or the politicization of knowledge. And he's seen it particularly, thanks, Pagan. Thank you. It's so sweet. Oh, that was that old pickle. So cute. So he's identified a politicization of knowledge, particularly in the scientific community. And he found that he said there was widespread acceptance among members of the scientific community that anything that contradicts politically correct doctrine, they consider is off limits. They avoid it. Even if the evidence were to move in that direction, they don't want to have anything to do with it. It's not to be touched. So let's say, JC, did I say Jasey? Did I catch it? JC, and I got some pounds. My fellow Brits, or my Brits, well, I am British by heritage, but yes, my compatriots. So what he found is that when we thank you, is it Buchalik? He found that, thank you so much. I'm getting I'm getting hard names today. He found that, this Nathan Kofnas found that scientists are not going to go in politically incorrect territories. So we're living in a time, quite literally, when the guardians of knowledge, in this case, the scientific community or the mainstream media, widely agree that there are some things that you and I are not allowed to know. There's no way around that. We have studies to demonstrate that. So CNN and the mainstream media as a whole do purposely omit things from our purview of knowledge because it doesn't fit with their progressive, politically correct agenda. It's called the politicization of knowledge, or the partisanization of knowledge. I can't talk today. All right. So as it turns out, Generation Zers are claiming to be more conservative than any other previous generation. Or another way of putting, thanks, Harry. Thanks, Leslie. Another way of putting is that more Generation Zers are claiming to be conservative than any other previous generation. Now, are we seeing a political effect on that? The answer is yes. And that was particularly from 2016. So this is from Jeff Brouwer, Brauer. He's a political science professor at Keystone College. And he found that between 2012 and 2016, Democratic candidates on average as a whole lost 5% of the youth vote nationally. It was down from 60% down to 55%. In a state-by-state breakdown, in Florida, Democrats' margin of victory among young voters dropped 16 percentage points in 2016. In Ohio and Pennsylvania, the drop was 19 percentage points. And in Wisconsin, it was 20 points. So because the lives, and one of the arguments is because the lives of Generation Zers have been so affected or so defined by 9/11 and by the 2008 financial crisis, they appear particularly prone to what we call on this channel border security and economic security. By the way, that latter, economic security, that's why they're attracted to Sanders. Sanders and socialism and Ocasio-Cortez provide this sense of economic security for them that the market and its crashing doesn't seem to be able to provide. Now, Trump has been very successful on that. Thank you, Christian. He's been very, very good on that, in that he's been able to pivot left enough on economics to attract the blue-collar white worker voter, right, who voted overwhelmingly Democrat since the 1980s. That's how he was able to win Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania. He almost won Minnesota. I think he's going to pull it off in 2020. I think he's going to be the first Republican to win Minnesota since 1972, I think since Richard Nixon. So he's been able to pivot left on economics to push away the Sanders and the Ocasio-Cortez enough to satisfy blue-collar workers in a way that the left has not been able to pivot right on culture. And so that's why they've gone identity politics, BLM, feminism, you name it. And it's just left white working class men out of the picture. So they're all going Republican. Same thing's going on in Europe, too, where they're going to the nationalist populist right. All right. So we're already seeing the political effects of this. So young people are moving away from Democrats. OK, on average by 5%. We're going to watch that for 2020 to see if that trend continued. And hopefully that trend keeps going to 15, 20, 25%. Right. All right. Gets even better. And here was the headline. I wanted to share this headline with you I wanted to share this as the headline for you because this is, to me, this just brought a smile to my face. All right, let's go across the pond, shall we? To Britain. So all of our Britain viewers, this should give you some really awesome hope here. You should be so excited. So we have a study that was conducted by the University of Sheffield and the University of Southampton that found that Britain's young people, these are the words they use, are now far more right-wing and authoritarian in their political outlook than the previous generation. And again, what they found is that the political attitudes of young people today in Britain have shifted further to the right, again, with each of the last three generations. So again, Roger Eatwell and Matthew Goodwin document recent studies showing that 41% of 18 to 24-year-olds in Britain, 41% of 18 to 24-year-olds, and nearly 60% of 25 to 49-year-olds in Britain believed that immigration was too high in Britain back in 2015 and 2016. Now you know why Brexit passed, right? So it's really fascinating. Young people, 41%, 18 to 24-year-olds. That's almost 50%. It's almost hitting majority. And these are young, idealistic kids. They have no idea what borders are. Thought immigration was way too high in Britain. Again, this is the backlash against liberal globalism. This is the backlash against the bullies in Brussels and the mandated, dictated immigration policies. As Nigel Farage said so beautifully back in 2016, our problem here in the States is illegal immigration. The problem in Britain pre-Brexit, pre-June 23rd, was legal immigration. They had no say. A bunch of people who weren't with names they couldn't pronounce and who weren't even British. Some of them probably had never even been to Britain, anywhere, Britain, England, or Wales, or so forth. Were dictating the migration policies for Britain, and Brits said enough. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. But here comes the best one. And this is the most recent study we have from Generation Zers. This comes from YouGov. You've probably seen YouGov polls and YouGov studies. Now, I don't know if you know that the significance of YouGov. I always pay attention whenever YouGov does anything, because YouGov is arguably the largest. It has the largest, what do you want to call it, panel of survey respondents in the Western world. Okay, so its profiles database contains the views of over 200,000 people. So we're talking almost 250,000 people. So when they break down questions on age demographics from like 18 up to, I don't know where they cut off. I think they cut off around 65-ish or so, maybe 70, 75. I don't think they get into octogenarians. So it's between sort of 65, 18 to say like 65, I think, around that. But if you break that down, if they have over 200,000 people in their database, what that means is they have about 3,000 to 4,500 respondents per age. So they're going to interview, say, 4,000 18-year-olds. Okay, so it's a huge sampling. Much larger than any other survey you're going to get. So we can't dismiss the trends here that we're seeing when anytime we're seeing something from YouGov. All right. Eric Kaufman, one of my favorite scholars over at the University of London, he's analyzed data regarding Generation Zers under the age of 22. And the data involves their self-identification for their politics, their political self-identification. Two astonishing things have come out. And this is literally when the last, I believe, 30 to 60 days. The last time there was a generational survey of political views, which was right after the Brexit vote. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you, David. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Very appreciated. So the last time there was a generational survey of political views, it was right after the Brexit vote. So I'm assuming July of 2016, right after the Brexit vote. They found that the youngest voters in that survey, okay, were 40 points more liberal than the oldest voters. And again, I think the oldest get to about 65 or 70. So what that means is that 20% of older voters identified themselves as liberals. Well, then Generation Z would be 60% self-identified, 40 points more. Makes sense? So older generation, 20 points, Generation Z are 60 points. So this is what CNN's saying. Just give it time. And before you know it, our senior citizens are going to be voting, 55% liberal all the time. This was right after the Brexit vote, so 4 years ago now. Today, they just conducted their latest study. Today, Generation Z is only 20 points more liberal than older voters. So the differential between older and younger voters, so the differential has been cut in half. And what we're finding, and this is the most astonishing thing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the younger the voter is, the more conservative. Is this fun? Don't you like this? The younger the voter is, the more conservative. So those under the age of 22 in Britain were found to be considerably more conservative than those between the ages of 22 and 39. What they found is that 18-year-old Brits today are not only more right-wing than 22-year-olds, average 18-year-old British person is as likely today to be conservative, to be right-wing, as your average British 40-year-old. This is from Eric Kaufman, University of London. Fascinating study. And again, based on the YouGov study, he's just analyzing the data. An 18-year-old, say an 18-year-old's 30%, say, profess to be, and I recall it was around that in Britain, 30% claim to be conservative. And then it goes down a little bit for when they go, I don't know, when they get all woke or something when they're junior year in college or whatever, when they're 20, and then they have to get a job and they get taxes taken out. Maybe they go a little more conservative and wobbles around. Then you get to 40-year-olds. The next time you see that 30% self-identified, yes, I am right-wing conservative, is when you get to British 40-year-olds. So today thank you, John Doe. Today we are seeing, if you can believe it, today we are seeing 18-year-olds self-identifying themselves as conservative every bit as much as 40-year-olds. 18-year-olds are as conservative as 40-year-olds. Now, it gets better. You like this? Isn't this fun? We're seeing similar political patterns among young people throughout Europe. All right. So in the run, and by the way, forgive me. I know we have been so inundated here in the States with news and with the election coming up. So forgive me. I know I've been, thank you, George. I've been paying as much attention to European politics as we normally do in this channel. We will get back to that after November 3rd, God willing, we're going to finally get back. Also, it's been a little sleepy in Europe too. So we'll, with the lockdowns and so on. Thank you, Brandon. With the lockdowns and the like. So we'll see if we can't get some more European politics in the future. Because again, the conservative right continues to grow and so forth. And here's some stats for you on that. All right. So in the run up to the French presidential election, the last one, 2017, Marine Le Pen enjoyed support from almost 40% of French voters between the ages of 18 to 24. So that was in the first round of votes. In France, you have to have you have to win 50% like they do in Brazil. So in the first round, she got 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds. And then when everybody was voting, she won 34% of 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, the significance of that percentage, again, we're looking for trends, is that when we compare the last time Le Pen ran, which was 2012, France has 5-year presidential terms. The last time Le Pen ran in 2012, that was the first time she ran for president, and her support for those under the age of 25 was just 15%. So we've seen a doubling, if not almost a tripling of her support among the youngest segment of voters in just a matter of 5 years. We saw similar results in the Austrian presidential election. And this is going back in December of 2016. So I don't know if you remember this. This was the election between Norbert Hofer, right, who is of the Austrian Freedom Party. He won 42% of the vote of those 29 or under. So it was, again, a huge number. All we hear about is everybody under the age of 25 is just a bunch of left-wing liberals. And all we're seeing is the nationalist, the so-called far right, the radical right. They're getting 45% of the vote of this age group. In Germany, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, Alternative for Germany, they have one of the youngest membership bases in German politics with an average age of 47-year-olds. So 47-year-olds. So they have a young voting base that brings that median age down. In the Netherlands, nearly 25% of Dutch people under the age of 35 supported Geert Wilders and the Dutch Freedom Party in their last parliamentary election. We even have data on Golden Dawn in Greece before they all got put on. They all went on trial basically. Now they've all gone over to New Democracy. New Democracy is now the Nationalist Populist Light Party. But the Golden Dawn got their strongest support from voters between the ages of 18 to 24. And in Poland, I don't have the data from their most recent parliamentary election. But their previous one to that, I believe, was 2015. 2/3 of voters between 18 to 26 cast their ballots for one of the three right-wing parties. I mean, 2/3. We're talking 75%, 66%. I mean, it's just absolutely astonishing. Something's going on in Poland. It's wonderful. Law and Justice has been able to maintain an extraordinary stretch of success there. All right, gets even better. Gets even better. Thank you, Earl. Gets even better. Generation Zers, we're finding, are actually more religious. So this is where I think Eric Kaufman's thesis about the religious shall inherit the earth, this to me becomes the one of the more pertinent, albeit anecdotal, evidences that conservative religionists, as they're having kids, more kids than secular liberals, and as they're growing up, they're maintaining that conservatism and they're maintaining that religious commitment. And we seem to be seeing that growth in distinction, say, from millennials who weren't particularly religious. Same with baby boomers too. Baby boomers weren't very good with that either. I don't think Xers were that great either. This is research from Wright State University, WRIGHT. They did a study on 1,200 Generation Z students at 15 different colleges and universities across the country. And they found that Generation Z is actually more religious than previous generations. They attend church at twice the rate of millennials, Generation Xers, and baby boomers. And their propensity just towards religion seems to have a very interesting traditionalist bent to it. So this links itself to, thank you, Leonard, very appreciate, thank you, very kind of you. This, we talk a lot about what's called retraditionalization on our channel. And retraditionalization is where when populations feel threatened by the highly secularizing, culture sort of killing dynamics of secular globalization and the like, they end up embracing their culture, their customs, their traditions, most especially their religious traditions, as mechanisms of resistance against the anti-cultural dynamics of globalization and its secular aristocracy. So that's in effect what re-traditionalization is. So the more globalization grows, ironically, the more we're going to see religious sort of backlashes, traditionalist backlashes. And with the race riots here in the United States, that's just gone on steroids with everybody, this massive exodus out of the cities. They're skipping the suburbs and they're going into the exurbs. And so they're learning to, hopefully, we'll have to get the data on it, but it looks like they're learning to live in terms of the philosophy of localism. And the philosophy of localism is going to be much more conservative, focusing on family, faith, community, and the like, than urban cosmopolitan cities and so on. So what we're finding is that young people between the ages 16 to 26 have been very attracted to something called the Tridentine Liturgy. It's a fancy term for the return to the Latin Mass. So when Pope Benedict had his tenure, all too brief in my opinion, I wish he was back, but when he was, I'm not Catholic, I'm Orthodox, but nevertheless, we're all in this together, right? So, but when he had his tenure, he brought the Latin Mass back. He wrote brilliant stuff. Oh, I loved Joseph Ratzinger, his Pope Benedict, his work on liturgical theology was stunning and so rich. One of my favorite observations he made is that all the churches of Christendom always were, well, not always, but virtually always were built facing east, so that when the people of God were worshiping God together on Sunday morning, their prayers matched the rising of the sun as well, so that both creation and cathedral were praising God together in this perfect unity and harmony. That's what kind of a wonderful theological mind he has, beautiful moral imagination. Well, when he brought it back, they were all expecting that this Latin Mass was going to attract people, from who were experiencing it in the 60s, so grandparents, older folk, going, oh, I remember this Latin Mass when I was a little child and blah, blah, blah. Guess who was coming? Guess who came when they started to lay out the candles and they were ready to chant the Latin Misa? Guess who showed up? Overwhelmingly 16 to 26-year-olds. They wanted this sense of tradition. They wanted to go back. They weren't impressed by the boutique, cosmopolitan, consumerist world of globalism anymore. Coca-Cola and McDonald's and Disney only do it so much. They wanted something deeper and richer. And so there you go. So I think we're even seeing some retraditionalization take hold among Generation Z as well. So why? What's going on? And then we'll finish it up. We're approaching the 45-minute mark. Again, remember, if you're interested in deep dives like this, click on the link below. Sign up for our Turley Talks Insiders Club. We do a deep dive like this every single weekend, and it's just exclusive for members of the Insiders Club, so you enjoy that. And also, we got a free gift for you too, if you want, my President Trump and our Post-Secular Future. Good book. Gives you all the data you need to show you what Trump really represents in terms of nationalism, populism, traditionalism. You can download it absolutely free as an ebook download below. My gift to you. Enjoy it. All right. So why is it? Why are Generation people, listen to me, why are Generation Zers more conservative than any other previous generation? One explanation is that they're actually being called the Jordan Peterson generation. And that's because they overwhelmingly reject political correctness. They find political correctness utterly detestable. There was a recent study that found that it was a study of over 8,000 people, and they found that 75% of those between the ages of 24 and 29 and 70% of those under the age of 24 thought that political correctness was dangerous and damaging to our society. So this seems to be, I think, outside of the Eric Kaufman thesis, that we are beginning to see the fruits of the reaping of the sowing of more religious conservatives and conservatives in general having bigger families, more kids who retain that conservatism into their adulthood. We're seeing the fruits of that because, secular liberals in effect just define the family as just another lifestyle choice. And that's it. You define the family any way you want. And one of the ways you can define it is not wanting it. You don't want family, right? So that's whereas conservatives see the family as inherently sacred. The family is the institution by which I learned that I am obligated to people and to ideas and to regions and localities and nations and so forth that I didn't personally choose myself, but that chose me, and that therefore have a right to shape my choices for the good. So conservatives tend to value the family deeply, and I think we are seeing the fruit of that. But another explanation, I think, again, complementary to it, is that simply young people despise political correctness. It's not that they despise, the particular things of political correctness. It's very similar to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson said, look, I don't care what gender identity you've got. That's fine. I'll call you whatever you want. It's when you mandate to me that I must call you this or that. When you mandate that I become a mouthpiece for cultural Marxists, that's where I draw the line, right? And he took a stand, and a very brave and wonderful stand at that. Keep him in your prayers. I haven't seen him in a while, and I really want to see him back. Lastly, and the final thing here is, keep in mind that one of the Achilles heel of the cultural backlash thesis is not just the data that we have on Generation Z. It's also the assumption that the way we vote at 18 is the same way we're going to vote when we're 50. And we have studies on that to show that's bunk. Virtually everywhere we look, as you get older, as populations age, they get more conservative, right? What was it now? If was it Churchill who said, if you're liberal, if you're, what is it now? If you're liberal before, I can't remember. If you're conservative before 30, you have no heart. But if you're liberal after 30, you have no mind. Something akin to that. And I think there's something to that. And again, I go to an Oxford study. It was published in 2014. Electoral Studies Journal. Thank you, Bill. Love you, Bill. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. The 2014 Electoral Studies Journal, Oxford study tracked the same people over several decades, very long period of time. And what they found was that as each year passed, there was a 0.5% increase in support of the Conservative Party among the people they surveyed. So the study argued that over a lifetime, this marked shift to the right accounts for any difference in voting patterns between, say, young and old, in that the old conservatives were the young liberals. So this is the Achilles heel, in my opinion, of the cultural backlash thesis. Or again, if you're showing up late, cultural backlash thesis is simply the only reason why Trump and the nationalist right are winning is because a bunch of white men, old white men, are having their last political hurrah. We're all going to die out eventually, and a new generation of the woke left of Gen Z is going to come in and save the day, and is going to guarantee a perpetual future of liberalism. That's nonsense. Both at the level of Gen Z is the most conservative generation we've ever seen, and secondly, it assumes that just because Gen Z may have a propensity towards liberal politicians and policies and politics does not mean that they're going to have that same propensity when they're 45 years old. I certainly didn't. I'm sure you did. I'm sure your politics have changed since you were 18. And now we have the studies that find, on average, people tend to become a 0.5% more conservative with every year they live. So all of that is to say, let's put it all together. What does that then mean if our current 18-year-olds are as conservative right now as our current 40-year-olds, as they turned out to be in that British study? What does it mean if we get a 0.5 point more conservative with every year we age after the age of 18? What does it mean then for the future if our current 18-year-olds are as conservative as our current 40-year-olds? It means a new conservative age is rising. That's what it means. It means we ain't seen nothing yet. It means the best is yet to come. Now, it's going to be hard getting there, obviously. It's going to be disastrous in many respects. The left doesn't want to let go. They're what do you even say to it? I mean, really, what do you even say to it? It's weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's horrific. And they may try to bring the whole thing down with them. Who knows? But I hope the gift I could give you today on this lovely Saturday afternoon is that the data we have on Gen Z and the data we have on how our political sentiments turn increasingly to the right with every year we age after the age of 18 all suggests that, far from being a mere cultural backlash amongst a bunch of white men, old white men who are dying out only to be replaced by a new generation of wokeness. Far from that, what we are seeing is a new conservative coalition growing like we never even imagined. And Generation Z may be our greatest champions ever. Whew. All right, there you go. 53 minutes. Not bad. Not bad. How are we doing, guys? Wow. All right. Lots still with us. That was a long argument, right? But we gave it to you. That's very good. All right. Wow. You guys got a lot of, I can't keep up. You're going too fast. I know I could slow this down. Thank you, William. I can't keep up. So I'm not going to be able to read too much. Hollywood is dead. I did see that. We did do a video on that. I don't know if you caught that. Hollywood is absolutely imploding financially. I mean, now even Netflix is going to implode now, right? With the whole cuties thing going on. So streaming is probably, that's going to be the big thing now. All the new houses that are being built are it's kind of like power windows. You're expected to have a little movie theater room in there. They're beta testing what it's like with, Mulan, that itself is going through its disaster. What it'd be like if you just put out a movie out there, major motion picture film and see if it just gets streamed. Let's see what happens. And I think Hollywood's done. I do, in many respects. Again, it's gonna take some time to unravel, but I think they're done. Check out that video we did. I think it was Paramount Pictures was up for sale. They were valued at $10 billion, and everyone went, "Whoa, that's amazing!" And one commentator pointed out, "No, it's not, because that's what they were valued 20 years ago." Hollywood's not gaining money; it's losing money. It's the amount of income that's gone has sunk so low, it's almost astonishing. And then, of course, nobody's tuning into the woke Oscars anymore. Again, professional sports has to watch out for this, because I think the same thing could be happening to them, especially if you start seeing alternative leagues pop up that bill themselves as, "Hey, we are woke free zone. You're just here to enjoy sports. Do our national anthem and we rock and roll," that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think Hollywood is dead. So Biden, Baby Yoda, Biden 2020. Yeah, right. All right. Is he awake? Is Biden awake now to hear that? Oh gosh, I doubt it. I doubt it very much. All right, guys. Oh wow, you guys are zipping through it. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that very much. I do. I appreciate your support. Again, please sign up for the Insiders Club. You're going to really love it. These deep dives we do every single week on different subjects to help encourage you in your conservative walk. Conservatism is a life. It's not just a political view. Conservatism is a life that in effect says that there are beliefs and ideas and institutions of the past that are absolutely indispensable for human flourishing in the present and the future. It's all about coming home. That's what conservatism is fundamentally all about. Roger Scruton pointed that out, that our two foundational documents in Western civilization are the Iliad and the Odyssey, both by Homer, right? There are two classical documents, the Iliad and the Odyssey. And the Iliad is all about war and strife and insanity in media res, in the middle of things. It's horrific. And it's all because they're far, far, far away from home for many, many years. And so what is the solution to all this war and strife and chaos and mayhem? The solution is the Odyssey. That's the second book, part 2. The Odyssey is nostalgia. It's about returning home. It's about coming home. And that's where one finds peace. It's the prodigal son. It's Christ's parable, the prodigal son. Progressivism is just a brave new world, and it leads to nowhere. It leads to tyranny. It leads to chaos. It leads to angst, and you name it. Where do we find life? We come home. We come home to the permanent things that were true yesterday, today, and forever. So I'd love for you to sign up for that Turley Talks Insiders Club. And we will share videos like this every single week. And do not forget to download your free President Trump and Our Post-Secular Future limited time offer, right? Just for you, my gift to you as an ebook download. Enjoy it, read it up, and that'll help you for November. All right, guys. Love you guys very much. I'm going to have to sign off, and I will see you on YouTube starting Monday, where we'll do 2 more videos analyzing what? You know it, conservative. I can't even say now, current events, a lot of conservative trends, so we can all live in the present life, even better things to come. All right, guys. Thanks, Susie. I caught that one. Thank you. Love you too. Love you guys very much. God bless. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll see you.